Well, it is Sunday, and the coronavirus is everywhere. The world's going to hell. Nobody has toilet paper, and it's one of them things. But the good news is, for the first time in over a year, my life is once again my own. We are finally finished with the big movie contracts we are working on, and so now we're going to have a chance to get back into the shop and start filming a little bit and on our new project, and it's going to be some cool stuff. Now, I know I've teased a little bit about what we've been working on. We're actually going to start doing quite a bit of silicon bronze casting, and it's going to be awesome. I cannot tell you how excited I am about the stuff we are getting to do. So way back in the day, I was a jeweler for a while, and I had my first experience with doing lost wax casting and all that kind of good stuff. And it was a lot of fun. I have the opportunity now, spoke with a gentleman that has hired me to actually reproduce some things in bronze, and that means I've had to add an entire casting setup to the shop. We got some cool pieces of equipment. We've had to modify a lot of stuff. It's all going to be cool things you guys are going to want to see. And wanted to give you a quick tour of what you're going to be looking at. So let's start off. So I know you guys have seen us using our foundry before. We have an old Johnson Forge foundry that was gifted to me by one Michael Moulton, who's a good buddy of mine. You guys have seen him on the film before. We've had to modify it quite severely, and check this out. Here is our Johnson Forge, and you can see our new upgraded pressurized blower system. The real nice expensive one is over there. It doesn't work no more. So we glued a bouncy castle to it, and it has been pretty freaking awesome. So that's a pretty cool upgrade. I'll show you guys how to use there. The other thing we did come out of pocket for, we still had to modify a lot, is that my friends that actually helped me build our gas forges up in Americas, I needed a burnout oven. So when you're doing this stuff called lost wax casting, you've got to have an oven that can very slowly ramp temperatures up and actually melt waxes out of what we call our flask. And so we got this cool oven here, but the oven just wasn't enough. I mean, this thing's got to take up to about 1,300 degrees in temperature. But the important thing is the controller. And you guys have seen us build our ovens before using the PID controllers. Well, we had to get an upgraded version that could actually be programmed with what they call ramp and soaks. So, you know, it's nice and professional until you get to all the crap that we've put in here. And then it's an OSHA nightmare. However, this bad boy works. And you'll get to see how it's going. In fact, we've got some flasks cooking in there now. But the cool thing is when you're doing this type of casting, you really need to have a vacuum caster. And so if you guys remember when we actually made our hammer handles, we made a pot that could be pressurized, that we were actually pulling oil into our hammer handles, and that was pretty awesome. Well, we've had to build something similar, except in this case what happens is the way that you use this is when you bring your flask out, and I'll explain all this later, and you drop it down this table, you actually pull air through the plaster, and it makes the metal that you're casting pull into all the little pores. So you have to make a vacuum situation, and you can see what we have up under here. It's actually a piece of 1/2-inch plate. We've got a new upgraded vacuum pump. Our other one was just a little bit too small. And what happens here, now this is not going to be on here. This is the cap for our, handles. So let's see if I can find a flask. Let's go see what we can find here. I know I've got one out here. So if you guys are not familiar with the lost wax casting process, basically here's what happens. You take something, a piece of wax, and you carve it into a particular shape, right? You then take that piece of wax and you put it into one of these guys. You tape it up like this one. You fill it full of plaster, the plaster dries. You then burn the wax out of that nice plaster mold and you pour metal back into the cavity. But in the vacuum casting process, we actually use a vacuum to help make the stuff, the metal flow a little bit easier. But check this out. So what happens is you've got plaster in here, you've got your, it's hollowed out. So at 1,000 degrees, this piece comes out, it slides down into here, and the vacuum is turned on, and it starts pulling a vacuum all the way around here. That's where it's got all this perforation in. And then when you pour the metal, it pulls it into all the nice little neat pores. And that's what we call vacuum casting. I will go over this process in detail, but there's all kind of goodness. Not even when we get there, we actually want to end up doing some rubber molds. So we actually make our own rubber molds, which is pretty cool. We're going to be casting some keys, and you can actually see these are the rubber molds we have here, and they produce these guys right here, which are your wax blanks. That's not a great one. I'm kicking Pate's butt. It's not a good one either. Pate, I'm killing you, Pate. There's a good one. You can see she looks really good. So it's going to be some cool stuff. We got wax injection pots. We got some really cool things to do, but I just want to kind of give you guys a heads up. Over the course of the next few weeks, we'll be walking through all steps of the process, and it ought to be some good footage, and it ought to be some pretty consistent footage, and I haven't had the chance to do it in a while, so I'm excited. We just want to give you guys the heads up. Again, thank you all to my Patreon subscribers, and we're finally going to get some good consistent content coming out here shortly. So guys, it is a beautiful spring day. Thank you all. You guys be safe out there with all this coronavirus mess, and I'll talk to you a little bit later. See you guys.